If you struggle with curtain fringe, hang out with me. I'm going to show you some quick tips on how you can perfect that curtain fringe and still keep length. I'm going to be using the Cara shears by Olivia Garden. Let's get started. So we're going to first start out at the front of the face, and I'm going to create my very first section at the front of the ear because this is the area of focus. I'm going to push all the rest of the hair out of the way so I don't get distracted by all of this amazing hair. I'm going to do this on both sides. Once I pre-section those pieces out of the way, I'm going to create a line at the edge of the eyebrow to the top of that temple, and I'm going to do a diagonal forward section, keeping this fringe in my playground, and the rest of the length I'm going to sweep out of the way so I don't carve too much into that. I'm going to repeat the same thing on the opposite side. The next step, I'm going to go directly in the center, and luckily because we are working with a center part, I can start at the center. If I had been working off of a side part, I would start that on the side. So I always want to start at the part line. So in this case, I'm going to build a giant triangle right in the middle of that center part. I want my design line to start right below the top lip. So I'm kind of aiming at the middle of her lip area. And I'm going to create almost a mimic of this triangle shape. I created a triangle up here, and I'm going to mimic exactly the triangle shape here. Now that I created my triangle section, this becomes the guide of my short to long section. So if I'm going to go through the perimeter, I will turn the head to the side because I want to cut as close to the body as possible. And I am going to remove the hair from the back out of the way just so I'm not distracted by the amount of bulk of hair. I'm going to bring everything just straight down, and again, because I really want to focus on retaining as much length as possible, I'm just going to go through and just slightly nibble the ends. The reason why I want to do this standing up is I want to be eye level and I want the hair to be as close to her body as possible. So I'm going to draw everything straight down horizontally, and I'm going to tip my shears so that point of the shears are to the ground. And I'm going to open the shears up, and I'm just going to slightly close the shears. I'm going to reopen as soon as they start to close down. So I really want to make sure that I'm just dusting the ends of the hair with the inside of the Cara shears. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to draw everything straight down, clean up some of her existing length through here, and then I'm just going to draw everything straight to the ground, picking up where I left off with that framing that I just cut. Okay, now I'm just going to connect the front pieces into the back. So I'm going to have her just turn all the way around through here. I just over-directed part of the side toward the back here. So you can see these 2 points. I'm going to connect these in. But what I'm going to do is actually turn her head to the side slightly. So I kind of use her back as a board, so to speak, so I can cut right against the back. And the reason why I'm facing her to the side is I want this shape to be slightly rounded. So I'm going to use this section through here. And that's the length, and I'm just going to continue this shape all the way through. So I'm walking that shape toward the center, and as you notice, it's starting to get slightly short to long. That's going to create a nice rounded shape at the bottom. I like to kind of finish toward the center of the head, so I've reached the center. I'm going to repeat the same thing on the other side. Now I'm going to turn her head to the other side, draw everything straight down toward the back, connect the sides into the back section through here, and just follow my guide all the way to the center. Before I connect one side to the other, I'm going to make sure that her head is straight for this part, and I want to make sure she's not looking down. And then I'm going to connect these pieces first. So there's a tiny little dip through here, and I'm going to connect these pieces in. The last and final step, I want to tip her head forward so that way I can cut right next to her body. So I'm going to actually move the cape out of the way. And I'm going to follow the guide that I just cut. It's going to be a lot easier, and this is the reason why. I like to connect everything through and then do a cleanup afterward. So you can kind of see where that new line is and some of that old length. Because she's looking down, I can see exactly where I need to clean up. Okay, now we're just going to blow dry, and then I'll show you some final steps when we're all done. So I'll see you in a second. So we've completed the blow dry, and I mean, it's pretty much perfection right now. To get rid of this square look, I will bring the rest of her framing into the layers. So what I'm gonna do is part off in front of the ears again, and I'm gonna start this first layer out by drawing everything forward. And then I will start chiseling in. You can kind of see where this layer was falling from before. And I'm gonna start chiseling in very lightly. So I'm kind of doing this pushing motion with the shears. And I'm even skipping over some spots. I really want this to be very organic, and I really want the hair to melt in to the rest of the length. I'm gonna do that once again. I'm gonna go 1 more inch behind. Now I'm on top of the ear. So I'm gonna repeat the same thing. I'm gonna go right on top of the ear, take that section, grab a portion of the section that I just cut, over direct all the way forward to the tip of the nose. I see my old layering through there, and I'm just going to start chiseling in. And then I can even skip some spots if I don't want to take it too blunt. And then I'm gonna do one more time just behind the ear now. So I'm about 1 fingertip behind the ear, grabbing my previous section, over directing everything forward. And I still want to make sure that I wind up in the exact same spot, just at the front of her face. So right at that nose, and I'm going to slide my hand down until I start seeing those layers again. And I'm going to just skip over and remove weight, chiseling in short to long. Less is more when you're doing this, because this is the thing, when you push everything back away from the face, that kind of petals open. And now you've got a softness from that layering, but you didn't take too much out from the bottom, so that it's got nice movement. It kind of added to that shape. You can see the difference right through here versus this side here, where it just feels heavy. Like you can see that weight when you pick it up and drop it versus this side when you pick it up and drop it. So yeah, we're gonna repeat the exact same thing on the other side. Front of the ear first, taking this entire section, bringing it right to the front of the nose. And now, of course, since I'm right-handed, so I'm gonna reverse my hand this way, and I'm gonna carve over the top through here. Drag it right over the top of the ear, pick up some of my previous section, over direct everything over to the nose, find my old layering, reverse my hand, and right over the top, still skipping over and carving into that just a little bit so it kind of blends everything in. And of course you can start chipping into some pieces too if you feel like there's some heavier weighted points. And then one last section, finger behind the ear, picking up some of my previous section, over directing everything forward. And there we are, carving away. One of the things I will say when it comes to creating curtain fringe, because every face is different, every hair texture is different, I would say match density for density. So when it comes to this curtain fringe, I wanted it to be a bit heavier through here, but if the density is not as thick, then take a little slack. And the way that you would take slack is, instead of taking your section from the top of the head to the edge of the eyebrow like I did in this demonstration, you could actually do about half of that, just going to the middle of the eyebrow and having this be your strongest disconnected piece, and then taking the rest of that section behind it and over directing it further over so that it's not as heavy through here. Matching density for density is really important, because you don't want this to get lost in the rest of the cut. I hope you try this curtain fringe out. Thank you so much for hanging out and watching. Make sure you check the description below for more information on the Cara shears. I'll see you next time.